Hi, this is Randy Finney with the right side of the chart, and today is Thursday, June 28th, 2018. Stock market's closed, but I'm doing this video on the Canadian banking sector, and I'll go over. There's not many, at least the big banks, so there's only one, two, three, not even a half a dozen. So we've got about 5 banks that I'll cover. Start out here with the Canadian Banking Index. I'm doing this video for a member Suncor123 in the trading room, who requested an update this morning on the Canadian bank stocks. And I know there's quite a few Canadians on the site, so I figured I'd do this in video format and just quickly share my thoughts with you. All right, so this is again CG410.to on the TC2000 charting platform. It's Canadian Banking Index. Now I don't know which components are in here and which weightings they have, so I'm not putting too heavy a weighting, but I do look at this chart, this index, to kind of get an idea where the sector is going, because it does mirror pretty much the banks I'm about to cover. And so what stands out to me is you can see an uptrend line here is pretty well defined, and that comes off the early 2015 lows. We broke down, back tested, and we're below it, so that's bearish. We had a divergent high as well before the breakdown, pretty powerful. That divergence spanned almost the entire year of 2017, so about 1 year of divergence, breakdown. What I put here, I put this purple line on the zero line, which is the dotted line there. Let's just move it out of the way. You probably, if you follow me for a while, you know I like to use, if it has acted well in the past, I like to look at the 90 MA and use that as a trend indicator. Crossed above right here, and it has been above, barring one little brief whipsaw signal right there, but it has remained above that zero line from pretty much this point, telling you that the Canadian banking sector was in a bull trend. It's still there now. Again, I use a 90 MA, not the PPO line, because it's the last of the two to cross, and that helps to filter out the whipsaw signals. So right now the lines are flattening out, and they're both above, particularly that 90 MA is above the zero line. So I can't really write that sector off yet, at least by that one trend indicator. Now that's not a be all end all. Let me make that very clear. Doesn't mean go fully short when that crosses below, go fully long, but it kind of gives you a good idea that the trend is up. And sometimes these lines, very often, they bounce back off the zero line from above or below. And you can see it did it here. It comes in and tests, tests, tests. It keeps that trend bullish. So overall, I do think it's going lower, but right now we just don't have a sell signal yet, but we may soon. Let's just finish up with the charts here, and I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I've covered the Canadian bank stocks quite a bit in the past because, again, I've had requests from members over the years, and the sector trades pretty well, and the Canadian bank stocks do as well to the technicals. You can see a steep divergent wedge, and typically I've noted the steeper a wedge is, usually the sharper the ensuing correction once that trend line breaks. So you had a bearish rising wedge with a divergent high, boom, correction. Bearish rising wedge, pretty steep. Negative divergences, confirming the bearish nature of that wedge, boom, very sharp correction. And this is a thing, and I say this a lot about, and this is why I love shorting stocks. Stocks tend to fall a lot faster than they rise. So if you can get in at the right time, sometimes you have a breakdown to back test like you did here, but you can make in weeks or days or weeks what you can make in weeks or months or more on the long side very often when you're shorting. That was a very quick drop. And the thing about it is too, you have to be pretty quick. You can't stay too late to the party, because once the correction's over, the bounce back can be pretty quick as well, because everything gets oversold, especially during a bull market. And keep that in mind. These are corrections within an ongoing bull market. And although as profitable as they were to trade, the ensuing rallies are even more profitable. So sooner or later, we won't be in a bull market, and the bull markets never last forever. Neither do economic expansion. So at that point, we'll be able to, short and kind of hold longer, or also go long the counter trend rallies. Right now, the whole point of this video, what's my opinion at this point in time? We had almost divergence, maybe flatline divergence, roughly equal lows on the PPO right there, and we definitely had positive divergence here on the RSI with prices making a lower low, and that led to a nice pop in the sector. You can see that they popped about 6%. Now here's what I'm looking at. We have a downtrend line right here that I added. caps these three recent highs. So, at this point, it's not a very bearish trend, but the near-term trend is bearish. A downtrend is defined as prices making a series of lower highs, which we have there, and lower lows. So this is sort of the channel we're working our way in. And if you're looking to trade the Canadian bank stocks, at least by the sector, you want to short around the top of that range. If we get much above it, it's cause for concern, especially if we take at that reaction high from back in March. Otherwise, my expectation would be for a continued move down here to the bottom of the range, and maybe at some point start to see the selling accelerate to the downside. Let's see if I had anything on the weekly chart. Yeah, the same story. There's a weekly chart, I think. And again, that trend indicator is above zero. That's the important thing to note on the weekly. So this was a daily chart here. All right, let's just roll into the five Canadian banking stocks, and we'll end it there. RY, Royal Bank of Canada. You know what I'm going to do for you Canadians? I'll look at the Canadian shares. That way, the price levels will match up. Now, I don't have this chart marked up, so let me just go back to RY. And as always, if you're trading these, you want targets on the Canadian shares, just let me know, and I'll be glad to post a chart in the trading room for you as well. So what do I see here? Well, we had a positive divergence right here at this low. You can see the divergence down here. That played out for a bounce, but it was a pretty weak bounce for that such nice divergence. We had a pretty muted rally, and then that was faded, and so far we took out that low, took out this low and this one. So there it is again. You're looking at another stock in a downtrend, and as you probably note here, I had the 75, 74 is a support level, and that was defined by these reactions back here, reaction right here. We found its support there, and now we've broken that support. So the trend is bearish. It's not the most objective shorting entry I've seen, but it is a decent one because you are below and you're not too far below that support. So, if you're trading on the U.S. Exchanges, it's simple RY. It's simple RY on both, but these are the U.S. based shares in U.S. dollars, and you just want to stop somewhat above there, maybe above this reaction high right here. And I'll have to give targets again. I didn't plan to do that in this video, but I'll be glad to if anyone wants to take a position. Let's see if I can give you a comparable level here. These look a little bit different. Okay, sorry, I had to pause the video there. I had a brief interruption, but where was I? Yeah, that line, I'll leave that line there. It looks like pretty good resistance around right about 102. Let's actually round that up there. There we go. 102. You can see some reactions there and a reaction back here. We had a big divergent high right there that I'm showing you. That marked the top. So these are the shares. Again, this is, Canadian Bank is trading on the Canadian Exchange here, Toronto Stock Exchange. That's the .to. Of course. And you can see, very, nice pattern. There it was. There was your wedge, your trend line break, impulsive selling. So point being, this stock is in a downtrend. I mean, this was your, the ideal shorting op right there. But with that being said, doesn't mean the stock can't continue lower. The trend right now, if you look at these, you're seeing a stock making a series of lower lows and lower highs. And so you just want to, if you're going to short it, you short up here. Going to go long, you cover on the, pull back down to the bottom of this trend line here. And if you're bullish, you want to see a breakout above that level, but I would wait till a solid break above 102 if you're looking to go long on the stock. There was divergence here, but it just didn't play out for much. That's what like the sector itself. So you had a little bit of divergence there, almost divergence there, and again, so that's it. Where does it go? If we get a lot more downside, this would be my target right here, about 90.55. I certainly see that as a pretty decent level. A lot of reactions on RY. Reaction low, reaction low, reaction low, reaction high, which was resistance, took it out, back test all along. But it's got a little bit of work to do. It really needs to take out these lows here, 96.23, call it 96.20. That would open the door, I think, for a move down to 90.40 right there. All right, weekly chart. I don't have it marked up. But same story. We could draw a trend line like this. Probably right there is how I'd draw that. And we did have a divergent high. So this tells us this one may be in the early stages of really a much larger downtrend as well when I look at the scope of the negative divergences there. So that's RYTO. Next one is TD. TD is the Toronto Dominion Bank. That's the TD and TD Ameritrade. It's a subsidiary. Anyways, you can see a nice, well-defined uptrend line that's not broken yet. So this is what's giving me a little pause in this sector. This is one of the largest banks in Canada right here, and you can see it's right on trendline resistance or support, I should say. And that trend indicator is also above zero, the 9 EMA, and has been all the way since it crossed bullish back here. So this told you be short, downtrend right here, and since this point in time, including up till now, it says the trend is bullish. However, your first sign that the trend will most likely be over would be an impulsive break and weekly close below that uptrend line there. And for your Canadians trading it, here are your levels. You can just replicate this, same trend line on your charts. I use log scaling. I think that's very important as well. So there's TD.TO or the TD on the Toronto Exchange. Obviously, you guys don't have to key in the TO if you're trading up there. All right. This is what it looks like on the daily chart. And we have that divergence. That really shows through on the weekly chart, the divergence line I just drew on the weekly chart, but this is a daily chart right here. So we had this sharp uptrend right here. It was broken. We've pushed back, made a little bit marginal new high, but it's still a divergent high. And this is a level I'd watch right now. You can see a little minor uptrend line right here. If that breaks, that should trigger the next wave of selling. I personally wouldn't chase this one on the long side now because of these divergences. Again, you want to look for these, these uptrend line breaks, and that's where you want to get short. This one looked like it was going to get going, but it never did. So we kicked up, made a marginal new high, and again, if it wasn't a divergent high, it might give me pause, but it is. The divergence even steepened from that point. You can see the divergence on the RSI or the PPO on the RSI. So there it is. Watch for a break there. How far might it go? If you're a swing trader, I think that's a great target. You have two reaction lows right here, around 63.35 or so. I think that's an ideal target. And again, those are the Canadian shares. Next one up is BNS, Bank of Nova Scotia. These are the U.S. shares. I'll pull up the Canadian shares in just a second. There it is. You have a sort of a steep wedge. I don't know. This downtrend line, I'm not crazy about it. But it seems the stock is falling in this channel right here. I can add a level right here. Certainly resistance if it gets way back up there. A little bit of a messy chart, but see, here's another one with it had a divergent low right here, and that divergence didn't play out. And this is what I was talking about recently in the stock market. When you start to see a change of character, usually you see nice bullish positive divergence on a daily time frame like this. That leads, especially in a bull market, that launches the next big ramp up like we've had back here. Those are what you want to look for these big rallies. And unlike, all these big moves in the past, this one fizzled out just as it started to get going. In fact, we hit that, 63.40ish level and then boom. So if you want to know where I think this one's going, I'm looking at the PPO trying to curl up. It is oversold. Not enough meat on the bone for me to want to step in and short this one here, but I think it's coming down to that 54.50 before all said and done. Maybe a kickback rally up here. Let me give you a line right here. There's a lot of there was support there, and that's resistance. So this would be probably the most objective place if you wanted to short the stock. And I need to give it to you guys in the Canadian shares. BNS.to. There it is. Yeah, this one actually paints a little bit different picture. I had it marked up here, 75.50, give or take. You can see a well-defined trend line. There was a little false breakdown there, a little whipsaw. And we also had a divergent low. Just like I don't take breakouts that to new highs that are divergent high, I don't take breakdowns below support if they have a positive divergence because they often prove to be a false sell signal. So right here, boom, and it was. We came back up, defended, regained that level. You can see a lot of reactions. Tested it there, 2 different days. Almost tested it there, came back, tested it here, and now we broke below. That is a sell signal right there. It's not a screaming sell signal. I'd like to see some other things, but we are below support. And again, look at TD Ameritrade. Look at all the banks together. You want to see them all break down. It will increase the probability of a swing trade because if one or two break down and some others are at trend and they're about to bounce, it'll probably drag the others up with it. Birds of a feather flock together, and that holds true, I think, with the Canadian banks to some degree or another. So there it is. There's your downtrend. If we continue lower, we go and you can see I don't have a. Yeah, I guess that would be first target down here, somewhere around 71.26. I think a nice swing target. Get down there after a while, and you can see when we go out to a weekly chart, there's that support level. So this looks like a stock to me that is quite likely topping. We had negative divergence on this weekly time frame that I just jumped out to. You can see it there. Um, Draw out the negative divergence, and now we're sitting on what I think is pretty critical support. Go back here to that 2014 reaction high, and longer term, if you're willing to ride it out, I think 67.50ish I think is a good long-term target for this one right there. But again, we have to break that support, and ideally on a weekly closing basis. And I think that's now. There's a couple more. BMO. Bank of Montreal. I can obviously have this chart marked up. Now, what I'm showing here are all the overbought readings down here on the RSI in the last decade. This is a 10-year chart, and without fail, I've circled the overbought readings and circled the tops. You can see how well those overbought readings have marked significant tops. These aren't just quick pullback trades. These are swing trades where you position short. These are all probably double-digit drops in BMO and then some. And so we just had one here, and I must have pointed this out recently on my last update for this stock. And this looks to be, I don't, could that be it? Yes, but I think this is, it's a little bit large for a bear flag, but it is some similar type of consolidation. And if we break down below that, I think we'll get another thrust lower. But again, I put this white line here because these PPO, the 9EMA, has done a great job of telling you, confirming that the trend is bearish. We had a bearish cross right here, told you get out, stay out. It crossed bullish here, said okay, time to get back in. And the bigger picture again, look at where it crossed green and it stayed above the zero line throughout this rally. So again, the trend indicator on the weekly time frame captures these bigger moves, bearish and bullish. And right now we're waiting. We don't have it yet, a pending crossover. If we get it, based on the history, looking back, these sell signals lasted over a year. It looks about a year and a half on each of these. So that would portend a lot more downside in this stock. And I think ultimately probably take you about right here, 66.83. That's BMO. And there's the daily chart on BMO. These are all levels. It's definitely some pretty decent support right here. You can see all these reactions right here. So from around 74.60 down to 73.80. And again, those are my US shares. So let's go to bmo.to. Type in with all thumbs here today. All right, there's bmo.to. Charts look a little bit different, don't they? There's an uptrend line to watch. There's actually looks like a nice little wedge pattern there with negative divergence confirming it. So there you go. And this one's just on the verge of cracking. It almost closed a hair below it today, but that's not an impulsive candle. Any more downside, I can tell you, probably take out today's lows, and you're probably good to go on a short for that one. And my first target would be right there, about 97.50. Let's call it 99. I'm sorry, 99.50. Right about there, somewhere give or take. And if you want to hold out and go for the big swing for the fences, I think this one can eventually work its way down here to about the $95 area. But I would expect a reaction there. Draw it out. Give you my scenario. It'll be something like this. Move down here. Trolling tools always grab the wrong ones. There it is. A little bounce off that area. And, wouldn't be a straight shot down, but probably work our way down there. And again, that's BMTO. All right, let's wrap it up here. Yeah, we'll wrap it up here on this weekly chart, again, this is just the Canadian shares, but I didn't have those drawn out for you. So if you want to replicate this chart, this looks like a nice, clean, very large rising wedge pattern, and maybe a little more upside, maybe not. But the divergences that are in place warn of a very likely impending trend change sometime, I would say, this year in the second half of 2018, maybe sooner than later. But again, you want to see a weekly close below this trend line, and if you do, this one's probably coming down quite a bit. And again, watch that trend indicator too. Right now, it's still bullish, so you have to be a little bit skeptical. And either way, those are some levels to watch. This has been Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart. I hope you enjoyed it.